6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To pursue science is not to disparage the things of the spirit. In fact, to pursue science rightly is to furnish the framework on which the spirit may rise.
Welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science, fiction, and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and welcome into another Write or Flight stream. 34 episodes of this down on the books now. It's been a hell of a ride, and I hope you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. Speaking of which, welcome in, whether or not you're watching on the YouTube side or the Kick side. It's great to have you here. I see Legatus Legionus, the Mod Supreme, is already doing the Lord's work on both YouTube and Kick. It's great to have you here, my friend. And Algrim the Strong is here saying, Hail Red Redeemer. Hail Algrim. Welcome in. And Ginger Norseman is here saying, good evening, folks. Good evening, Ginger Norseman. Hope it's not too late in your neck of the world. Legata said, did you see that fan poster someone made for the Odyssey? It has Sydney Sweeney as Helen of Troy and Alexandra Daddario as Athena. I think Alexandra as Athena is perfect casting. I mean, the joke with Percy Jackson's kind of funny, but I wanted someone much more mature and with gravitas. Zendaya's got no gravitas whatsoever, so I'm all for that casting. Sydney Sweeney, on the other hand, I don't like her in the role. Maybe it would have been an improvement, but I want someone who can really physically act with the eyes, and I've never seen any performance from Sydney Sweeney that's quite on that level. Yeah, I need, because she doesn't have a whole lot of lines in a visual medium. Yeah, she told a bit of the story to Telemachus in the book. That would be shown rather than told. So we need a physical performer. We need someone who can act with their eyes, and Sydney Sweeney just doesn't cut it, in my opinion. Progress? Maybe. Perfection? Far, far from it. I would have hired a Greek supermodel. That's exactly what I would have done. She has virtually no dialogue, doesn't need a whole lot of dialogue. So just hire someone from Greece to get some actual Greek representation in the film and have it be a supermodel, so it's already someone that Greece sees as an undeniable beauty. That solves all the problems, in my opinion. But yes, that poster does sound pretty funny. Today, I have a couple of topics, a few small ones. Odyssey, of course, we have to check in on, and astronomy piece of news, a really exciting one. No, it doesn't mean that there's a new planet we can move to or anything like that. And finally, there is a new Avengers Doomsday trailer out. I haven't seen it yet. We will put it at the end of this stream before the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment. I will be reacting to it live. Let's see how good it is, because I'm not very hopeful for Doomsday. I think that's pretty clear if you've seen any of my previous content, but We'll have to see how the trailer does. Maybe it's just all nostalgia, so people will go, yeah, it's stupid, but I like seeing the people I love back on screen. Maybe that's all the trailer will be. In fact, I'm sure that's what the trailer's going to primarily be. Ginger Norseman, I don't think I've ever seen Sydney Sweeney act. I haven't seen a whole lot from her. Her Madam Web stuff is just bland. It makes sense with, that terrible film, that terrible production. The Euphoria clips, I haven't been impressed with. I just don't think she can carry a role like that. She definitely can't have any speaking lines in The Odyssey if she were in it. I don't think she can handle the type of dialogue that would be necessary for a good Odyssey adaptation. Who knows? I know a lot of people would love her in that role, and I at least understand where they're coming from. Hail Dash, welcome in. Hail everyone. Yes, welcome in, Dash. Well, I actually had a very interesting phone call right before the stream went live. That's actually the reason why I didn't do a long starting soon segment, because I was on the phone with someone. A friend of mine connected me to one of his friends who absolutely loved the film. I'm saying gave it a 20 out of 10. Like, best movie ever stuff. And my friend had us, talk to each other, debate it out a little bit over the phone. And it was a great conversation. I do love having conversations with people with a dissenting opinion from my own. That way I don't get stuck in my ways. They can challenge my opinion. And it's through discussions like this that our opinions, our knowledge, our wisdom truly grow. And this was a great conversation. There was no name calling. There was no Nolanite isms of it where like, oh, you just don't understand him. Or me just, using ad hominems against him as well. It was a very mature conversation, and we ended it quickly. It was only a few minute conversation, but it was very much like, I see where you're coming from, but you didn't change my mind. And I miss those conversations. The internet doesn't have the nuance to make those conversations often very viable. So finding it out in the wild was refreshing. Very, very refreshing. I know you guys are probably going to think that 20 out of 10 is crazy. I personally, as I've talked about before, I have no intentions of ever giving a film a 10 out of 10, period. That's just my rating system. And a lot of people are surprised with how low my rating system is, but it's the same philosophy. 10 out of 10 means perfect. And I don't believe any film is perfect. So I have no intentions of ever giving a 10 out of 10, and I rate things with the knowledge that other things exist. So, like Spider-Man No Way Home, I think is a great example. I think it's a fun movie. I enjoy the hell out of it. Its script's complete nonsense, especially the first 2 acts. It's a lot of fun, but it's complete nonsense. And especially when you compare it to stuff like Spider-Man 2 or other superhero medium. Yes, I have superhero fatigue, but it's an easy metaphor to use in this conversation. It just doesn't have the inherent quality of a lot of other ones like Winter Soldier, Civil War, for example, or the first Thor movie. So I have to rate it accordingly. That's why I believe I gave Spider-Man on streams and stuff like a 5.5. So yeah, that's just the way I rate things, and that surprises people a lot of the time. Ginger Norseman, that's not a slight against her. I don't think I've ever seen a film or show with her in it. Yeah, she hasn't done as much as her reputation would lead you to believe that she's done. Legatus, previous Marvel phases / Avengers had a build-up for the big baddie. There is no such build-up for Doom, unlike Thanos. Yeah, Doom, he was in the end credit scene of Fantastic Four, and I think that's it. I do think that's it. Never knew she existed until the American Eagle jeans ad. That's when you found out who she was. Okay, I'd heard about her for a few years, and the thirst for her was well underway by the time that ad came out. Dash, 20 out of 10 Odyssey scores can be a padded cell next to the 3 out of 10 Troy reviewers. Yes, I did not rate Troy at a 3 out of 10. I think it has a lot of problems with its script, but it's at least fun. The action's at least good, so I gave that film a 5, maybe a 5.5 out of 10. The performances in that one are extraordinary. The casting's just perfect with the exception of Brad Pitt. So yeah, 3 out of 10 is a bit much, but yeah, I think a 20 out of 10 is a lot more much. Ginger Norseman, I think I have a few perfect films. Fellowship of the Ring is certainly one. Fellowship of the Ring, even? Oh, you just didn't do the plural. Okay, yeah. Fellowship of the Ring, I do think is the best written of the trilogy. So it would get the highest up there for me. Of course, I enjoy The Return of the King even more because of the cinematic payoffs and the over-the-top action sequence that I love so much. So I enjoy 3 more than 1, but 1 I think is absolutely the best written film. Absolutely, I think it's the strongest one out of the 3. I still can't give it a perfect score because when we went over it in Saturday Night Drive-In, Adam and I were able to find flaws. And if I can find a flaw or assume that there is a flaw, I can't give it a 10 out of 10. Even with Project Hail Mary, my enjoyment of that film was 10 out of 10. Absolutely loved every single second of it. Couldn't give it a 10 out of 10 because I knew there was criticism. I saw criticism. I heard criticism from other people. So I think I gave it a 9 in the end. It was damn near perfect, but yeah, I personally don't believe in a perfect film, and I don't think that's a bad thing either. The moment we start making perfect films, I stop seeing the point of film and the point of art. Always being able to achieve and reach for something better. And that might be the problem with Christopher Nolan as well. After the heights that his career reached over the last few years, the reception he has from Hollywood itself, being seen as the best of the best of the best who can do no wrong, I don't think he kept reaching to be better. He found his stagnant and he stuck in his stagnant. That's why I personally wish The Odyssey would fail. Not because of the quality of the film or anything like that. I want Nolan to remember his niche and go back to his niche, and everyone needs to occasionally be reminded that they're not perfect. It's an exercise in humility. That might sound a bit, intense coming from me, but I truly do think that Nolan's reach has exceeded his grasp. And if this is truly a billion-dollar film, which I don't think is on the table right now with its opening weekend, if it somehow becomes a billion-dollar film, he's just going to keep doing stuff like this. And he's not going to figure out where his strengths are. He's just going to think that he can do better than everybody else, and I see that as a problem. Every artist needs to know that there is something better that they can achieve, a next hill they can climb, and that can be within your own niche as well. Experimentation with talent. I think those are the best pairings. Like Robert Eggers, he is experimenting with his upcoming film, Werewolf. It's fully within his niche, and he's comfortable in it, but he's still trying new things within that. And that's what's leading him to make better and better films as he goes along. I do think Norseman is an incredible film that people don't talk about much. That was the one that he went as the farthest away from his niche, however, and the box office responded to it. So he responded to that big box office flop by shifting back into what he's comfortable with, which is horror, doing Nosferatu and now Werewolf. He's figured out his niche, and he's going to get as close to perfect within that niche as possible. And we're going to get so many incredible films from him as a result. Algrim, I'll tell you about the real Doom after the trailer review. Jed is highly intelligent, and so should already know which way the wind is blowing with that commentary. I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically, but yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. Ginger Norseman, ooh, you covered it in Drive-In. We'll have to hunt that video down. Oh yeah, we did the whole trilogy. I think we've done all 6 Star Wars films as well. We've done a lot of great things for Drive-In. There's a playlist on my channel and Adam's channel that have the totality of the Drive-Ins. There's more on his because we didn't dual stream that show initially. It took us a little while to actually start dual streaming. He's got maybe 70, maybe 100 more of those episodes than I do. Like, it was a long time before we switched it over to mine. So you're guaranteed to find it with him. But if you want to check out mine, definitely check out mine. The validity or not of the trailer, oh yeah, I'm not impressed. Not impressed with what I've heard about the trailer. So I'm sure I'll be able to tell what's valid and what isn't when we get to that trailer. But we can start off with the smallest topic. It's just one that I've hinted at over the last few days that I wanted to give a dedicated segment here, and that's about the upcoming God of War television show. When the God of War television show at Amazon Prime was first announced, I was of course skeptical. Amazon Prime hasn't delivered many great fantasy television shows at all, so of course I was worried about it. Then Michael Moore became involved. I thought that was great involvement from him from his Star Trek days. The problem is they're jumping right into the Norse saga. As much as I love the Norse saga, you can't understand the character of Kratos properly unless you have the Greek setup, and they skip the Greek setup entirely. However, with all of that said, as soon as they announced the casting of Ryan Hurst as Kratos, I began to warm to the idea of this television show. Of course, I didn't think it would necessarily be good, but that was decent casting, all things considered. Well, during filming of God of War at Amazon Prime, 4 episodes into filming, unfortunately, Ryan Hurst has suffered an injury on set. He tore his bicep and will be unable to act for the next 6 months. As a result, Amazon is recasting Kratos and pushing back production to refilm all 4 of those episodes starting in October. So they don't have a whole lot of time to find a new actor to play Kratos. I don't have hope that they'll find someone as good or better than Ryan Hurst. So this is going to be a very important moment in the production's history. Maybe with those 4 episodes that were filmed, this is their opportunity to fix any problems with those episodes. Maybe there was some reception that was negative towards them. Hopefully they did internal test screenings of those 4 episodes with whatever non-cut that they had. Obviously, it's too soon for a real episode cut, but I just hope that they can use this to course correct into a better product. We won't know, obviously, until the show comes out, and the more likely solution is it's going to get worse instead of it's going to get better, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, Ryan Hurst, I wish him a speedy recovery. He definitely needs to recover after a bicep injury, and starring in Nolan's Odyssey as a very forgettable character, which isn't his fault. He played Mentor, who was the avatar for Athena. He should really have had a lot more to do in the film. So yeah, hopefully a speedy recovery comes to Ryan Hurst, and the God of War TV show, hopefully it improves with this change. That's gotta suck. A torn bicep. I can't imagine how much that would hurt. Especially a man of his age, because he's probably in his 50s. I really hope he's okay. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. Ginger Norseman, 2 comic characters I wish were done right in movies were Doom and Doomsday. Both have ridiculous backstories, but they're needed to give their characters big, bad, world universe ending gravitas. I miss gravitas in modern filmmaking. That was probably, besides the gods, the most jarringly missing aspect of the Odyssey was gravitas. I didn't see anyone with the smidgen of gravitas. Legatus, yeah, having a 50-year-old training and doing such physical stunts, it was bound to happen. I think there are a lot of 50-year-olds who are still doing well in Hollywood. Look at Tom Cruise, the Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, and Chris Evans aren't far off from that. Matt Damon, for all that's worth, he's going back to Jason Bourne, and he's in his 50s, so it's becoming more and more common for men in their 50s to still be action stars. I think that's great for, health. It's a sign that health is improving, that age longevity is improving, but it also leaves you open to injury like this. Tearing a bicep, though, what kind of stunt did they have him doing? Yeah, I can't imagine what it would have actually been. It might have been in his own training. There's always that possibility that he did it on his own while trying to stay in shape. Stuff like that does happen on occasion. Hopefully it's not something he can sue them for. Or maybe, hopefully, it is something that he can sue them for, putting him in a situation that a stuntman should have been in. Ginger Norseman, I thought it was really odd why they're scrapping it. Maybe the guy actually did well and they needed to make it more lame and gay. Perhaps, of course, perhaps. And delaying it this much, like, they've got to refilm 4 episodes instead of waiting 6 months. They're already waiting, what is that? 2, 3, 4 months. They're already waiting 4 months to pick up production again. So why not wait an additional 2 and keep the 4 episodes, that you've already filmed? There had to have been something that they didn't like about it, whether positively or negatively in our eyes, that they use this as an excuse. Because 2 months is a lot. Waiting 2 more months is a lot cheaper than refilming everything you have up to this point. That's why I think there's something else going on in their motivation to recast him. Kratos is known for throwing and using lots of weapons. It's true, Kratos is known for that, but I don't imagine that it would be stunt heavy for him to do a lot of those things, but who knows. Sounds more like something he might do trying to bulk up for the part beforehand. That's what I was thinking, is that he was in the gym on his own. Algrim, I tore my left distal bicep tendon 2 years ago. Surgically repaired. That was after tearing my tricep tendon in 2006. Man, that sucks. I hope the recovery wasn't too difficult for you for either of those. I can't imagine having that happen because I am very, very lucky. I've been lucky in my life that I've never had serious injury. I've never broken a bone. I've never had to go to the emergency room. I wrecked a four-wheeler once when I was 16, and it was because I was sneezing, which I absolutely hate that that's the reason. But I got some pretty bad road rash. I think I dislocated my thumb. We just patched it up at home. The problem is I went to go see Captain America Civil War in D-Box the next day, which is where the seats move. So having my leg, it was just the one leg, just torn to shreds from road rash, wrapped up, throbbing in pain, and then even more so because of the thrashing of the seat, was pure agony. It took me a while to actually like that film because the biases applied to it from the pain I endured while watching it. Of course, now I think Civil War is a great superhero film, and, you know, for an action film of its quality, one of the best out there. At the time, though, I wasn't a fan. I don't think I've done D-Box since then, and I used to love it during that period. Doesn't hurt as much as you would think? Okay, that's good. I'm glad. Well, yes, Legatus, it happened during production, but I don't think they've confirmed that it happened like while cameras were rolling or set or anything. It could have been while he was keeping in shape during production. Like, these actors, they still need to go to the gym in their free time to stay in shape. Unless they've said something explicit. I haven't heard anything explicit about it. Ryan Hurst, who was cast as Kratos in Amazon's live-action God of War series, was severely injured on set. It is on set. Okay, thank you for that clarification, Legatus. In late June, and is being recast. He tore his bicep during a stunt. Well, it was a stunt. Yeah, they're going to be able to... He could sue them if he wanted to, I'm sure. Requiring surgery and a lengthy recovery that no longer fits the show's shooting schedule. Hurst suffered a torn bicep while filming a heavy physical stunt on the Vancouver set. Recovery generally takes 4 to 6 months for basic use, with a full year required to gain full strength. Alright, that makes sense. If it took a full year for him to get back on set, refilming 4 episodes would seem like the lesser cost in that case. Alright, thank you for that context, Legatus. It does clarify things a lot. Algrim, you healed really well. That's great. Lots of nutrition. Nutrition plays such a big role in stuff like that. Dash, nothing phases Jed except sunburn. Yeah, that's the only true hurdle that I've had in my life that was dangerous to me. I've gotten second-degree sunburns in the shade before. I mean, granted, it was high altitude in Utah, but it was still a shady second-degree sunburn. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And then I went dancing that night. Well, I was like 17, maybe. We went dancing out afterwards. And I'm a big swing dancer. If you guys didn't know that, I'm a country swing dancer. Grew up doing it. Actually, I think I'm fairly good at it. And country swing requires a lot of lifts and throws and spins and stuff like that. And your partner has to really trust you. Well, when I'm covered in blisters, having heat stroke basically, yes, it was at night, thankfully, I probably shouldn't be picking up women and spinning around with them. Nobody got hurt, obviously. Everything was fine. I just, in retrospect, it was probably a terrible, terrible idea. Ginger Norseman, yeah, they filmed 4 episodes, absolutely. Dash is saying to Algrim, what whiskey will not cure, there is no cure for. That definitely feels like it's true. Ginger Norseman, I can understand recasting to fit a schedule. Would just like to see how the guy did in that episode. Yeah, it would be interesting to see some of that footage. I think he is the best that we could have gotten. Of course, his size isn't as depicted in the video game, but that size is really difficult to portray. He's still very much in shape, very bulked up, looked the part well enough. I think his beard looked fake as hell in that behind-the-scenes promo we saw, but that could be fixed. That can absolutely be fixed. And his voice is incredible. It sounds a lot like Josh Brolin, honestly, when he was Thor in God of War Ragnarok. Legatus, so sunburn is a greater threat than Ginger's side? At least to me? Yes. Yes, it is. Absolutely a bigger threat. All right, we can move into the Odyssey portion of this. Just let me make sure we have everything all together. Someone reached out and showed me a Reddit post. Yes, I don't have a Reddit account. I don't look at Reddit, but someone sent me a post on Reddit that lets you see a little bit more detail about Rotten Tomatoes. Like, there's a way to see more information on Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't have time to check it for today, but I really want to dive into that to see if the information provided in that post was accurate and what insights that would give into the Rotten Tomatoes scores of everything. Because we know they publicly said Rotten Tomatoes changed its scoring system back in 2019. That's why most people dismiss it as a viable metric, positively or negatively these days. And it would be interesting to have a way to compare. This is what Rotten Tomatoes is saying it's doing because of the changes made in 2019, and this is what it would actually be based on the old rules. So I'm going to be diving into that. It requires a little coding, not much, just, HTML, stuff like that on the site, and I want to see what the results are. Fortunately, that will not be included in this section. I think a lot of gingers would probably welcome the sweet embrace of death. Would you, Ginger Norseman? This year's summer has been hell for gingers. It's been all right here in Florida. Surprisingly enough, this winter hasn't seemed all that bad for me, at least. I don't know if anybody else feels differently. I'm very much a homebody. I go to work and I come home. That's a lot of my time outside of my home is just work. So perhaps I have a skewed impression of the weather. My feeling is, though, that it's been pretty normal for this era. And let me see. I want to get one more post from this woman before I dive into her section. Someone called it. Come on, where is it? She had such a great post. Here it is. All right, so I've got that one. I think I'm going to put that at the end of the Odyssey segment. Okay, so yeah, we'll dive into the Odyssey here real quick. It's not about the content. If you haven't seen my hour-long review of Nolan's The Odyssey or seen the 2-hour discussions I had with it on Dermy Wormy's Try Hard stream, or the 2-hour discussion I had on it on the Renaissance Nerds Roundtable stream, definitely check those out. I have 5 hours of content between 3 channels talking about my specific thoughts on the quality of the film. This is more periphery news-related stuff that I find to be very interesting. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has released, and its box office has been good. It's not the impressive blowout success that a lot of people are saying, considering how large the budget is, but it's more than respectable. And with that, more and more people are seeing that. More and more people are reviewing it. If you haven't seen my review, check it out on this channel. But I wanted to talk about Emily Wilson for a minute here. Just as a preface, Emily Wilson has a translation of The Odyssey that I am not a fan of. I do not like the changes that she made to the source material. A lot of people have been talking about her recently because it seems like her more modernized, modern language version of the Odyssey in iambic pentameter, which the original wasn't. To be fair, the original poetic nature of Homer's version, the Greek version, isn't translatable, and that's a whole separate breakdown. And the problem with it is it seems like Nolan based a lot of his script on her version, which is arguably the worst possible version he could have, because it strips a lot of the magic, the poetic beauty of it, because no matter what you think about the actual translation, it was written as a poem, so it should reflect a poetic style when translated into English. She also changed a lot in the story. Tell me about a man of twists and turns. All right, we get some about his character right there, Odysseus' character, some things about his journey. There's a lot in A Man of Twists and Turns. You have a promise set by that. Contrasted by her version is, tell me about a complicated man. This is the highlight of one of the things that she did that clearly influenced Nolan's version of Odysseus. She describes Odysseus as a soldier with a traumatic past, or as a colonial invader. Even though terminology like colonial invader doesn't make sense, A, because he left Troy, he didn't colonize it, so he's not a colonial invader, and B, they wouldn't have had concepts like colonial in that era, at least in the way that it's applied here. The reason I bring this up is Emily Wilson has reviewed Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and I find it immensely entertaining the fact that she did not like it. No, she's not raging about it, far, far from it, but she is being critical of it, which I found surprising considering how much Nolan was inspired by her version of the Odyssey. Wilson said she questioned a range of omissions and other choices from the absence on screen of the gods Zeus and Poseidon, which are immensely important. The book literally opens with the full council of the gods, barring Poseidon, who's down in Ethiopia. Athena is played by Zendaya, to the incoherent messaging that both condemns war and physical cowardice. Yes, you cannot have Odysseus' story be focused on, oh my god, it's so terrible what we did, it's so evil that war, oh my god, trauma, 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 and then have, Antinous, how dare you be a coward and not go bravely into war? That makes more sense in the original poem. Does not make sense in this version of the story. That's why I think the changes that Nolan made his film incompatible with the few versions that seem accurate to the film. One example that was brought up on EFAB, which I recently just listened to, was the throwing the dogs off the cliff scene. It seems jarring in the context of this film because it's so modern, it's so driven through a modern lens of what is right and wrong, the correct way to view war and stuff like that. And then suddenly a historically accurate thing that shows a different type of morality, it's jarring. So I agree with her. I absolutely agree with Emily Wilson on that aspect of the film. She found Penelope's role so thinned out that it endangered any possibility in believing in this marriage. I agree with that. I think they stripped Penelope a lot of her wisdom and her true love for Odysseus. She was a wise character. The funeral shroud was her idea to weave. It wasn't forced upon her. And then she had the additional quiz of Odysseus after he's finally revealed with the bedpost. The bedpost was cut out. So you took Penelope's most iconic moments that reflected her intelligence and, in other scenes, her love for the character of Odysseus, that she's not a real person anymore. She's a plot device. Wilson also thought that parts of the film, notably the scenes with Odysseus' dog Argo, catered towards modern sentimentality. Everybody's a sucker for a dog. Yes, Argos' involvement in the story was greatly increased and inflated. The final scene with Argos is accurate to the book, but that's the only part of Argos' story that's accurate to the book. Christopher Nolan talked about the dog was the reason he did this. He was thinking about the Odyssey, and I think he recently lost his dog. He felt something reading that Argos died the way he did, seeing his master return home, and that's the whole reason he did the Odyssey film. It's not a great motivation considering the dog is such a minor part to it, and it feels very manipulatory to have the film inflate his involvement to rip an emotional response from the audience. So I am quite shocked to say that I agree with Emily Wilson's review of the Odyssey. It's very, very funny to me to see the woman who inspired this version of the film also not be okay with this film. Moving on, I just want to highlight some cool things about the Odyssey real quick. Some of the older versions. I think I saw the Ulysses version of the film from the 1950s. I had no idea how beautiful it looked. I just wanted to highlight the Cyclops here for a moment. Oh my god, this looks incredible. Far better than the one we got in the actual Odyssey. And there's character there. There's wisdom there. The practical effects are really interesting. And when you see the scene in motion, the way back in the 50s, they showed the difference in scale with forced perspective and overexposing certain parts of the film to overlay stuff. It was really impressive. So I just saw this picture going around and couldn't believe how incredible it looked. Another good thing that's come out of this film is the people who are going back to the source material. Even with bad films or things that I see as bad films or bad adaptations, often a positive result from them is people going to check out the source material. And that's exactly what some people are doing. Like this person here highlighted in the first tweet that I brought up, Liza, she said, I've been self-studying ancient Greek for the last 6 months. I'm by no means an expert, and by now I'm seeing everything that Emily Wilson has done to boulderdize and mutilate Homer's original text. I'm inspired to reach proficiency in this beautiful language to save literature from nasty ideologies. So she didn't just go back to the source material. She's learning Greek because of this film to properly get involved in it, recognize why this is so contradictory to the actual version of the story from Homer. I see this as an uplifting result of the film. I find this as impressive. I'd love to learn ancient Greek, but I do not have the time, attention span, or the linguistic capability of doing so. Maybe I could if I actually dedicated myself to it. That's why I respect her so much for being inspired by the original source material in this fashion. So there are still good things coming out of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. One good thing that isn't coming out of it is more IMAX cameras and IMAX projectors. Everybody knows that I don't care much for IMAX. I think it's a little pretentious the way that it's being portrayed, but it is a popular medium, so you'd think that there would be more projectors being made, especially with The Odyssey being the first film ever shot in entire IMAX aspect ratio. Well, when the CEO of IMAX was asked, hey, are you going to build any more cinemas? There's only like 41 around the world, and this film was heavily marketed on the fact that it's an IMAX film. What's up? He said, well, there's certainly more demand for it. The problem is they haven't made, don't you mean we haven't made new IMAX film projectors in about 50 years. He tries to obfuscate blame by saying they, but he's the man responsible for this. So we retrofit them, rebuild them, and part of our strategy is to see how far we can take it. But certainly, demand-driven, I'd like to see more. This is the man responsible for expanding IMAX who can make these decisions to build more projectors. It's insane that they're not capitalizing off the success of this film to announce more IMAX screenings. And the fact that this technology is 50 years old is baffling to me. Why are we being so hyper-focused on IMAX when it's literally an old-fashioned technology that's being milked for all it's worth and caused some issues for the Odyssey, the sound mixing being a primary one among them. You can't hear anything that's going on in half the film because these cameras are so freaking loud, it makes it impossible to record dialogue, and reportedly Nolan hates ADR. So this is an out-of-date technology that has hit a roadblock that actively damages the films it's in, and it's not even expanding to be more accessible to everyday people. It doesn't seem like a winning strategy in my mind. But neither does anything with Christopher Nolan's Odyssey seem like a winning strategy to me. We'll have to wait for the final box office numbers to see if it truly was a winning strategy. I truly don't understand the obsession with IMAX. Yeah, I can see a couple inches on the top and bottom of the screen. Sure, that's great. And the films have to be shot in such a way that standard screenings can still see what's important. So you're not missing anything. Yeah, I can see a little bit more color desaturated sky. Wow, I can see the top frills of someone's helmet. Wow. It doesn't add anything to the film. It doesn't show anything additional to the film. You're not actually missing anything of value. And I do think it damages filmmaking techniques because when a filmmaker has a set aspect ratio that they're filming for exclusively, like most filmmakers, they do the standard screening, the widescreen, the 16 by 9 or whatever it is. They have that on their monitor, they watch the playback, and they set the scenes and frame everything, composite the shots to maximize that space. And they can do things with that amount of space ahead of time to make it get across their goals to the audience, what they want to convey to the audience. When you're filming for 17 different aspect ratios from IMAX all the way down to standard screening, because there's a lot in between, you're not able to composite the film properly. You're not able to frame shots in any sort of creative way. You just have to put the important thing at the dead center of the screen and far enough back that you can see everything in standard. And then you just cut away the top and bottom. It's actively damaging the art of cinematography, in my opinion, to do so. But obviously, a lot of the world doesn't agree with me, and, that's fine. It's not going to change my opinion on something just because a lot of people disagree with me. That would be the appeal to consensus illogical fallacy. Let me see. Ginger Norseman, brilliant. It is pretty funny. Dash, Jed has turned from Nolan and sided with Emily Wilson. Now I've seen everything. No, I'm not siding with Emily Wilson. I still think that her adaptation is a very, very poor adaptation. I just find it incredibly entertaining, the fact that she didn't like what spawned from her decisions. Ginger Norseman, I wonder how the folks attacking people being critical of the film are going to react to her take. They'll probably ignore or find some way to dismiss it. That's what they always seem to do, with the exception of the person that I talked to earlier today on the phone that I was talking about, the great conversation. Most people I talk to or see online can't articulate why they like this film. It's just, oh, it's Nolan, it's great. Yes, break it down. The reviews that I've seen online, they're very short reviews who just go, I love it. Give me some detail. Have an argument. I can respect anyone's opinion if they can articulate an argument for it. But if it's just wishy-washy, I liked it, I'm going to dismiss your opinion. That's just the way it is. And yeah, I'm not seeing a high caliber of intelligence from an audience that prides itself on its ability to understand a film better than other plebs. It's kind of an interesting thing there. Ginger Norseman, I already read that one. Dash, I think it's mostly that film in general, not just IMAX format, is on the way out. Nobody wants to invest in a dying technology. Perhaps. It still brings in billions of dollars every year, but the problem is cost versus profit. Films are too expensive right now. So yeah, if they poured less money into each film, it'd still be an incredibly profitable industry. So I think a lot of it has to do that the average film cost these days for blockbusters is $200 to $250 million. That's absolutely insane to me. Even the big budgets of back in the day, the ones that we think of like Ben-Hur, even adjusted for inflation, those budgets are half of our average budget. That's a problem. That's a problem. It feels like that money's getting wasted. Like with the Odyssey, yeah, that money went into the IMAX cameras. We already know actors take a huge pay cut to be in a Nolan film. So it went to IMAX cameras. Nolan's insane, $20 million upfront and 20% of the box office take. And nowhere else. It didn't go into costuming. It didn't go into set design. Might have gone into some special effects like Polyphemus's puppet and the Cersei transformation. But where else did it go? Where else did it go? Legatus, considering how often the actors have to return to their recording studio to do lines over for a cleaner, sharper, louder result. Well, that's what I was saying. Is Nolan is apparently against ADR, which is what you're talking about there, going back into a studio to re-record their lines. So he's unwilling to fix the dialogue in scenes that was not properly filmed by his IMAX cameras. And because of IMAX, he can't review on the day if something is a problem. It's not until editing, or at least a week later, that he finds out something is wrong. When he was filming The Odyssey, he'd filmed the 3 minutes at a time that the cameras were capable of, which is just insane, and then ship the 70 millimeter film reels back to California to be developed. There's no such thing as playback for him. He cannot, there on the day, check if he got what he needed to get. He has to hope he got it right. And then by the time he finds out whether or not he did get it right, it's been several days. They've moved past it. They're on a different location. They've built a different set. He can't go back, and Nolan is not known for reshoots. Nolan's not known for ADR. So he's just stuck with whatever he films. And if something went wrong, it stays wrong. That's not a great mentality for making a film. It's a very poor mentality. It's almost as if the quality isn't the chief priority for him. Ginger Norseman, Dash, I'm ignorant in cinema technology. I just go to watch new film on big screen, never understood what made IMAX better. Slightly bigger. You can see a little bit more on the top and bottom. That's what makes IMAX better. Slightly taller aspect ratio. And yeah, the 6K resolution if you're on the right projectors. Yeah. But at 16K, how much can your eye notice that? Let me see. What is the average resolution of the human eye? Average resolution of the human eye. Maybe that's the wrong question. What it compared to 4K? Let me see. This is not coming up with results that I was hoping for. All right. The entire field. So a 2020 vision only processes about 5 to 8 megapixels. Your brain creates the illusion of a massive high-res image. So what is that? 5 to 8K? So 14K is well beyond the average of 2020 vision. Of course, there are going to be exceptions to that rule. And 8K is kind of the max of that. So 8K makes sense as a default maximum. 16K is a marketing stunt, I think. Just like, the people bragging about 120 frames per second in video games, you're marketing off the fact that you have big numbers. But the human eye, on average, isn't able to process stuff at that clarity. It just reinforces my thought that IMAX is a pretentious scam, honestly. Most of the extra picture for IMAX is above and below typical widescreen, though, so kind of wasted outside an IMAX theater anyway. Yeah, they can't put anything in those, extra screen portions of the screen, or it'll be lost on standard screening. So you're literally not adding anything of importance to the IMAX screening. You can't. Otherwise, you can't show it in standard format. This is why you need a secondary regular camera so you can do playback of the approximation. I mean, not a terrible idea. Not a terrible idea at all. The resolution mostly matters on huge screens projectors, like it's where it'll look blurry, pixelated at lower resolutions. That's true. The IMAX screens are absolutely enormous, so you need that type of resolution. I guess that makes sense, but it's still, I see it as incredibly pretentious and unnecessary. All right. So we have 2 more topics today. We have the one about a new Earth-like planet with more detail. It's really exciting what's going on there. And the Avengers trailer. So we'll dive into the astronomy one. It'll be a very, very short one. While we do that, however, Chat Choose Your Own Adventure is coming up at the end of this stream. If you guys are feeling like you're in the mindset to do it, let me know how we feeling about Chat Choose Your Own Adventure. Because if you guys aren't in the mood, then it doesn't matter whether or not I'm in the mood. I'm feeling good about it, so it's completely up to you guys today if it feels like a day that we should do Chat Choose Your Own Adventure. So keep that in mind as we go through these last 2 topics. The first of which being a new world in the Goldilocks zone. For centuries, humanity has dreamed about worlds outside of our own, planets that we could travel to, set foot upon, and live on, just as we do here on Earth. But that dream has been relegated to fantasy for a long time. Until now, we finally have the next step in making that fantasy closer to a reality. As a disclaimer, this is not Earth 2.0. This is not a planet that we can actually visit, but this is the first time that we've discovered an atmosphere around a rocky planet in the habitable zone of a star. To be clear, the habitable zone is the the space around a star, the orbit around a star in which liquid water is possible. That habitable zone, or that Goldilocks zone, will be different for every star depending on how bright it is, the type of star. The thickness of atmosphere on the rocky planet also influences it as well. It's a very Earth-centric view. Life on Earth requires stuff to be in the Goldilocks zone. Life on other worlds may not require that. So there are those disclaimers there. But I think it's absolutely incredible that we found an atmosphere around an exoplanet within the Goldilocks zone. There might be liquid water on the surface of this planet. There might be life on it. Yes, it is 48 light years away. That's well beyond our current capabilities of ever visiting. The Voyager spacecraft are still going to take centuries, if not millennia, to reach our nearest star systems. So this is a pipe dream. This is nowhere near in our future, going there, visiting it, seeing what it actually looks like. But once we found one, we know what to look for now. We can find more like this. And I see that as an incredible discovery that will lead to more incredible discoveries. This atmosphere is also primarily comprised of helium, at least of what we've discovered. Helium is the primary element that we've discovered in this atmosphere. So it's not breathable for humans or Earth-like life forms. It's still exciting to see the next stage in finding other habitable worlds in which humanity could eventually migrate to in our galactic neighborhood. I hope you guys are excited about that as I am. I think it's really cool that we're finally finding an atmosphere. Finally finding it! Yes, we found, gas giants that technically have an atmosphere and stuff like that, but the fact that it's an atmosphere on a rocky planet inside a Goldilocks zone, that's comparable to Earth. That's exciting. And yes, that's why I very much press for it. This is not technically a new world. This is not something that we need to dream about life forms being on necessarily, but we've done it. Now we can do it again and again and again and again until we find an eventual world that can sustain human-like life. I love that. I love it. But I'll get back to the chat. Let me see. Dash, if it's round and not flat, it's not Earth-like. Not with the flat Earth shit, man. Come on, you're killing me, Smalls. Ginger Norseman, I vote to call the new Earth-like planet Bob in honor of Titan AE, a good Matt Damon film. I've actually never seen that. At least I don't think I have. So we're going to call it Bob. Right now, it's called the normal planetary classification, bunch of letters and numbers. It makes sense why they have to do it, but I hope whenever there's a planet of importance that we discover, we name it after something great. I personally like using mythology. Like, if we ever found a paradise planet, I'd probably try to call it Ogygia or Hyperborea. I think those are great Greek mythology names for planets like that. Mars, too. It's probably more similar to Mars than it is us. We need more details on it. We need more. What is the term for it? Why can't I remember it right now? I talk about it all the time in my books. For lack of the exact term, the chemical analysis of the atmosphere. We need to do more of that to find out what it's comprised of in greater detail. It's not astrospect. I can't remember it right now. But yeah, there's more to be discovered. Maybe it's not primarily helium. That's just what we discovered first. You're more interested in planet Nibiru and the return of Anuka. Yeah, discovering something like that would definitely change the world. That's for damn sure. Alright, I think I've held off for long enough. I did put this section at the end on purpose because I don't care about Doomsday. I've been very vocal about this over the last couple years. I have actual superhero fatigue. Of course, I have bad movie fatigue, just like everybody else as well, but superhero fatigue has affected me to such a degree that I don't care about good superhero content. So I am absolutely biased when it comes to Doomsday, and even to Spider-Man in a couple weeks, because I don't care if it's good or bad necessarily, but this is a major film coming up that I will have to watch and discuss on shows like The Tryhards and The Roundtable. So let's see if this trailer from Doomsday can change my mind about anything. Algrim, we'd sound awful funny on that planet before we passed out and died. Yes, there would be a minute in which it would be absolutely hilarious. And then it would get dark real quick. Avengers Doomsday is right around the corner. A Doomsday is coming for us. On the same day that Dune 3 comes out, Doomsday is now official. And finally, after teasing us with such little marketing for the last almost year, we're finally getting our first official trailer of Avengers Doomsday. I thought that they'd wait for this trailer until the week that Spider-Man came out, use the hype of Spider-Man to release it. Maybe doing it right beforehand is the better idea, however, to not truly get drowned out by Spider-Man hype. Probably a good idea. I haven't watched this trailer yet, so I'll be reacting to it for the first time with all of you. And it is important to note, like the chat is talking about, this film will most likely bomb because its budget is recorded to be around $700 million. That means its break-even point is almost $2 billion. I don't think $2 billion is on the table, even with Endgame making well over $2 billion a few years ago. I don't think interest in Marvel or superheroes is at the stage to warrant that kind of budget. We'll have to see, and let's see what this trailer is like. It's Xavier School, yep. So is this trailer going to focus on the X-Men? I've thought of an asteroid coming down with the dinosaurs see a moment before they're annihilated. It does look like a planet is crashing down onto Earth, which is weird.
Something we may not be
I'm not sure who's talking there. I can't quite make it out. Yeah, and the accent's pretty thick. That might be Nightcrawler. He's the only one that I remember who has a really thick accent. And this shot here, I don't know what the shot is going to end up being, but this looks like a video game cinematic. Like, if someone told me this was for an Assassin's Creed game coming out in 2014, I would have believed you. Like, this looks like a video game, not a high-budget Hollywood film.
We should be faced with an unthinkable decision.
Oh, it's Doom. Is that Doom's voice? Oh my god, is he that one with that accent? No. No. That does not sound like Robert Downey Jr. in the slightest. Alright, new Avengers Tower, huh? With the A way down there. I mean, I don't love it, but it's fine, I guess. It makes more sense for the logo to be up top so, you know, people can see it. But, alright. That is Doom's voice.
I've fought with many warriors in my time. They were far stronger than all of us put together.
Oh, that's a very helpful speech you have there. What the hell is he wearing? What is that, Red Guardian? The hell is that? It says new along the leg. I don't care about any of these characters anymore. I love Thor. He is a truly extraordinary character, but Love and Thunder did not do him any justice. Falcon used to be a great character back in the day, and Ant-Man, I love the first Ant-Man film. Besides that, why should I care?
And they died. They died facing
Wakanda
and threats that scared me far less than this one.
There's gonna be a big Thor Doom fight. Alright. Shang-Chi and Gambit are fighting. I haven't seen the Shang-Chi movie. I couldn't be brought to care in the slightest. But, you know, Gambit was good in Deadpool and Wolverine for what he was. So I don't care about all these fights. I'm sick and tired of superhero films pitting the heroes against each other. Fight the villains. Have villains to fight on. It was okay in the first Avengers film because it was just getting introduced. These are large personalities clashing for the very first time. After that, chill the hell out with the hero fights. I'm really getting bored with this whole idea. And what was that right beforehand? I do have to say, his costume looks incredible. I love that he's actually in his comic accurate costume. And the old X-Men films were great. Giving them their proper costumes, giving them some love, care, respect, I think is a good thing, all things considered. I think they pitted them against each other because they both have energy things that float around them and fly at people and are controlled by them. Like, when you think about it, they have very similar offensives. And yeah, that seems like a very lazy thought process to set up a fight like this.
Everything that they sacrifice will be for nothing if we do not stand together.
I really hope I don't have to watch Loki Season 2 to understand this film. Season 1 was one of my last straws. It's the last Marvel TV show I saw.
Put aside your petty squabbles. I presume nothing.
Okay, yeah, Mystique's back. It's the original Mystique. I feel like this trailer works if you're susceptible to nostalgia, and there's a point in which I was. If this trailer came out 10 years ago, I would have been ecstatic with what I'm seeing, but it feels like too little too late, and it feels predatory. Like it's preying on nostalgia because that's all it has. As a result, it feels empty to me.
Except this. If you return, you will return as brothers and sisters.
Is that Namor? I'm not sure who that is. I didn't watch Black Panther 2 either. I didn't watch a lot of Phase 4, to be completely honest. A lot of Phase 4 I was just done with. So this isn't doing anything for me.
We're going to need a miracle.
I don't like that it's the broken one that Steve has. I think it would make more sense if it uh no, I guess the broken one does make more sense after Endgame. I just don't like the broken one from Love and Thunder because it reminds me of Love and Thunder, which I did unfortunately see.
Hey, pal.
It's not possible.
That's not Captain America. That doesn't look, sound, or feel like Captain America. He was my favorite hero back in the day. He was the one that I would go out to the theaters just to see, and this just isn't him. I'm not feeling anything. I feel nothing with all of this. And for a trailer and a film that's so reliant on the audience's nostalgia, it's not a good sign in my opinion. Infinity Vision. Yeah, that just felt soulless. It feels reactionary. It feels desperate. That's the word I've been looking for. It feels desperate because this wasn't their plan. They haven't been building up to this. They were building to Kang. They were trying to build up other heroes. But in this time where Marvel movies aren't making money anymore, yes, a lot of Marvel movies over the last several years have failed to break even. Even last year, I don't believe Fantastic Four broke even. If it did, it barely made any profit. So what else can you do? Bring back stuff and people, characters that used to make money. At least with No Way Home, it felt earned. This doesn't feel earned. It feels reactionary to No Way Home to garner a little bit of interest to try to recoup some costs. The problem is they spent $700 million on this desperate act. You can't just keep throwing money at stuff. That's Disney's policy. But the reason I paused on this screen is Infinity Vision. Apparently, Disney is pissed that IMAX, we were just talking about IMAX a little bit ago, refused to put Doomsday in IMAX screenings, instead choosing to put Denis Villeneuve's Dune 3 in IMAX theaters. Disney responded by inventing Infinity Vision, which is their competitor to IMAX, and oh my god, it's gonna make IMAX quake in their boots. It's just the existing premium formats. I think this reflects on how meaningless the whole IMAX thing is. You can just slap a label on existing premium formats and essentially get the same thing. It's all corporate speak to try to draw money from the audience by convincing them that reality is not reality. And reality is Infinity Vision doesn't mean shit, and it's an excuse to charge you more money, just like IMAX. So, no, if I were not planning on reviewing this, I would not be watching this. I haven't cared about superheroes or Marvel in many years. This trailer did nothing to make me change that opinion and that feeling. Even seeing characters that I know and love from the X-Men movies, for example. This was an X-Men heavy trailer. Does nothing to move the needle for me. What did you guys think? Was that just extraordinary? Blow your minds? Oh my god, wasn't that like the best trailer ever? I haven't seen anybody online talking about it. I did, of course, to be fair, avoid talk of it, so I wouldn't have anyone's opinions affecting my own. Except the dinosaur thing. The dinosaur thing I did steal because I saw a picture of it falling down. But besides that, let me see. That's Doom's voice, but not really. Yeah, that accent was terrible. He's supposed to be Eastern European, but it's also RDJ, so I'm just confused AF. By RDJ, you mean Tony Stark? Yeah, they're gonna try to explain it. And from the leaks and rumors, it sounds like he will be playing Tony Stark in the film as well. It's not going to make any sense. It's really not. You're out of the loop on Marvel films, Ginger? I think a lot of people are. Normies just can't be bothered to do the amount of homework necessary. Ginger Norseman, I unfortunately saw some of Loki Season 2 at a friend's house. It was terrible, and it's pointless since they canned Kane. They're still going to make it impactful. The ending, we'll just say the season finale of Loki Season 2, if the leaks and rumors are true, is integrally tied to Doomsday. In fact, they refilmed the finale for an alternate version of those events, if the rumors and leaks hold true. So yeah, Loki Season 2 still important, even though they took out Kang. It's so ridiculous. Dash, Infinity Vision is a quality certificate like Lucasfilm's THX, rather than a technology Formax like IMAX. That might be true, absolutely, but they announced it in response to the IMAX stuff, and they're putting stuff like their IMAX format, what they would have put in IMAX, into Infinity Vision. So yes, it's technically a certificate and not a technology, but it's being used as a competitor. So it's extra dumb when you realize that it's just a slapped-on certification. It doesn't affect technology, but in IMAX branded theaters versus Infinity Vision theaters, that's what it's kind of going at with the branding aspect. It doesn't make any sense, Dash. It's really dumb. But it was a pretty boring trailer. I agree. Nothing happened. It was just quick shots of like, oh, I remember him. I remember him. I remember her. Member. It's just member berries. There's no soul, and there's no build-up. Nothing story-wise was revealed. Nope, nothing at all. Infinity Vision equals very large screen, bright laser projector for high contrast, Dolby Atmos or similar sound. Absolutely. It doesn't mean shit. And Algorithm the Strong with a $20 super chat says, Part 1, Doom is my all-time favorite character. That's awesome. And yeah, that is Doom versus Iron Man, I think, in your profile picture. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's not Doom's armor. This isn't freaking Holy Roman Empire. It's not Maximilian armor at the start of the 16th century. Well, Algrim, if the leaks and rumors hold true, then the Roman inspiration makes sense for the Secret Wars film. I'll just say that. Yeah, there's an intentional inspiration for his new armor design, and I think it's dumb as hell. For another $20 super chat, Algrim says, Chainmail, that started in the 4th century. And what the hell is with the old lady gauntlets? Doom's armor is self-contained fusion-powered system, similar to Iron Man's armor, but far superior. See Iron Man number 149 and 150. Yeah, they're not going to show anything like that, I don't think. I really don't think they're going to. And the medieval stuff is intentional and really weird. I don't know if you've seen the leaks for Secret Wars, Algrim, but I'll just say the majority of the film is set in a medieval setting. Like, all the heroes are dressed as medieval peasants and noblemen and stuff like that. So his costume was designed to fit into both settings. Both modern, fit is I'm stretching the word fit when it comes to Doomsday, but also into Secret Wars medieval setting. For another $20 super chat, Dash says, this dangling metal crap isn't an armor system. It's a bad garage sale from medieval Italy. And that voice, see Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends TV show again, circa 1981 for Doom's real voice. I hate this. I'm sorry you're going through this, man. This is what I feel about with the Odyssey. So I understand your pain right now, and I don't want anyone going through this. I hate to see so many great pieces of entertainment warped the way they have been over the last few years. Algrim, I'm familiar with everything Doom, including, unfortunately, this medieval knight nonsense. All right, so there is a comic foundation for it. I wasn't sure. I said Dash? Did I say Dash instead of Algrim at one point? I'm sorry, Algrim. Dash, I'm sure you don't mind. My bad. There's a lot of names going by. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Alright, well, that was very generous of you, Algrim. I appreciated that. What is that? 2040, $60. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Algrim the Strong, for the support. And, you know, I feel bad that you're going through this right now. Are you planning on seeing the film, or is this desecration so bad that you're not going to be touching it? D4 wins again. D4 always wins. He gets his due. But that brings us to the end of the news segment and discussion segment of this stream. The Chat Choose Your Own Adventure is what we have next. How is everyone feeling about doing the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure? We already have $60 worth of super chats, so we already have a foundation for Algrim to throw in some suggestions, or if Algrim specifically isn't feeling anything since he already paid for them, we can just hold it off for another week. I do feel like if we force it, if I force it, if you guys force it, none of us have as good of a time as we could have, and the story really suffers from it. So please be honest. If you guys aren't feeling Chat Choose Your Own Adventure, we won't do Chat Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm absolutely open to whatever you guys are thinking. Damn you, Dash. D4 always wins. What material is Doom's armor made out of? That's an interesting question. Algrim, I'm going to be paying attention to your response to that. Algrim, I'll watch it at home so I can scream at the TV in 4K. Alright, so you're going to wait a little bit and be safely in the comfort of your own home. That's not a bad idea. If I had been safely in the comfort of my own home when I saw the Odyssey, I might have screamed myself hoarse. But I was in public, so I was a perfect gentleman and shut the fuck up. I did laugh a few times when, the film didn't want me to laugh. What was an example of it? When the bard went, dun dun dun. Hear me, O muse, or sing to me, O muse, dun dun dun, of a man, dun dun dun, of a man, dun dun dun, of a man. I laughed out loud at that part. But, Legatus, creating a Battle Royale story, is that today's tie-in segment? And it's made of titanium? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But Battle Royale, I mean, that's what Battle World basically is for Secret Wars. Do we need to do a Battle Royale? Oh, God. But it's infused with magic, so it's a divine whammy. Yeah, Doom is a really interesting character. I only really know anything about Doom from the two Fantastic Four series we've gotten before the recent one, so the 2005 version and the god-awful 2015 version from Fan4Stick. So I don't know much about the actual Doom. I don't know what he's supposed to be like. I don't have a good source of knowledge. So the whole idea of magic seems very different to the character that I'm familiar with. That's Marvel's failing for not showing that character as he's due for so long. Alright, how's everyone feeling about it? How are we feeling about Chat Choose Your Own Adventure? It doesn't seem like anyone's particularly eager for it, so I think it comes down to Algrim. He already dropped $60, so if he has an idea, he's already paid for that idea. If he doesn't have an idea, I think we'll hold off the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure for another week. I'm just checking Stream Elements and Stream Labs right now to make sure we're not missing any donations from anybody. Algrim, the movie is so heavily focused on the magical abilities that they're leaving out his superior technology. And you could have... It wouldn't work, obviously. I'm not defending the decision, but having Robert Downey Jr. play Dr. Doom makes... you could find a justification for that with his superior technology angle with Doom. Still not the right decision, but they could have played into that. Now they're completely avoiding it. That's probably because Robert Downey Jr. wanted to play a character as divorced from Tony Stark as physically possible. It does suck, though, if that's such an important aspect of Doom's character to, excise it for an actor's wishes to be different. That's really, really lame. You're done whining for now, Algrim? It's all good, man. No need to apologize. None whatsoever. I whined about the Odyssey for 5 hours on streams the last few days. Take a story break, Jed. I'm too irritated to come up with a suggestion. All right. Algrim has spoken. The Lord himself has spoken. Blessings in the chat, please, for Algrim the Strong for what he's going through with Dr. Doom. Smitings for Christopher Nolan and what he's done to the Odyssey. And please, throw a few blessings my way, if you would, as well, for me enduring the Odyssey. For all of you fine people in the chat, I hope you enjoyed my review. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, please do so. But that brings us to the end of this stream. My week coming up, it's going to be Assassin's Creed Black Flag whenever I get a chance. Hopefully tomorrow night. Hopefully Wednesday night. I'm trying to finish that out in the next few days. So stay tuned for some more Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resync to finish it up this Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Come on. Yes, we're coming back. It's good timing because we're wrapping up. Smitings for Spectrum. Thank you, Dash. Smitings for Spectrum. I appreciate you, Dash, dropping all those blessings and smitings. Yep, thank you, Ginger Norseman, Dash, Legatus, everyone else who was chatting or lurking. I greatly appreciate it. And special thanks to Algrim the Strong for dropping $60 worth of super chat. It is time for whiskey, Algrim the Strong. I'm going to go have some Imperial whiskey myself, so you all have a fine, lovely evening. If you enjoyed this stream, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day, and stay curious.